Okay, so let's introduce you to another profile cut. This cut is today going to be the traditional French crop. It is a variable haircut that often it has different names. So the shorter it kind of goes, some people would call that like a Caesar cut. These cuts were fundamentally really popular within the kind of like the mod culture. But it's a brilliant cut for certain types of skills. You need to spend some time on just sort of deciding where you want that kind of guideline to start. So bearing in mind that the natural curvature of the head, if you place a comb on it, sits at about here. And we need to keep this weight at the back of the crown to make sure it curves with the shape of the head naturally. So we're going to pop our guideline in about kind of here. So thing to think about first and foremost is where you're going to start your haircut. We're going to start at the back of the crown on the natural curvature, just above the occipital bone area. We're going to pop that in at about that area. So again, just to gauge it, about here. We're going to work out our length, and in a sense what we want to do is make sure that we maintain about an inch in length to pop our guide in. Then once we've got our guide, we will follow that guide systematically in a kind of methodical manner down through using a horizontal platform. So we're going to do this today. We're going to come out at a 90-degree angle, work down, work down, work down, work down to about here. And then we're going to switch it into more of a 45-degree signpost angle, which can be variable. As you know, you can change that to a tighter or looser. And then we're going to graduate and start to think about a graduational aspect to the bottom part of the haircut. So we're going to do a variable 90-degree angle and then switch it to a 45-degree angle. And that way it will gradually come into the back of the head and it will sit quite nicely on the nape area. All right. So again, scissors closed, obviously from a safety aspect. Put the scissors in to collect the hair and rest the comb in underneath that section, trying to keep it nice and clean, and determine whereabouts you want to start and whereabouts you want your guideline to start. So we're going to pop a guideline in, as we said, just below the contour, and we're going to pop it in about there. So we're going to use a very natural scissor over comb technique. Collect some hair from underneath that cut, pop that in to find our guide, and then connect. That way we can then follow that system down through the back of the head in a very controlled manner to ensure that we've got a very nice even distribution of weight using a horizontal line and a 90-degree parallel to the head section. Comb down just to visually check, make sure we're comfortable, and then we're going to continue that method of working all the way down to the middle part of the back of the head. So one more probably, and then we can start to think about our next paint. So we're working down in a strip, in a panel that suits you. So we're going to come down again, take that section, pop it in, find our guideline from the top, which you can just about see through that area, and connect. So 90, 90, 90, 90, 90. Now at this stage, because we want it to gradually go a little bit shorter, we're just going to change that angle slightly. Change into that nice 45-degree angle, enabling us to go down into a graduational mode and work the haircut in shorter. So again, collect, angle and cut. So we're going to come in one more time just to check that. And there we are with a very nice 90, 90, 90, 90, 45 and into the neck. going to be a great depth comb to use for a cut like this, because you can collect the hair really successfully. The wide tooth part of the comb is suitable for people with much more thicker, coarser hair. Having a black comb against the black hair can sometimes be a disadvantage because you can't always see your guide line as clearly, and therefore you may just miss a few bits. But if you switch and have a comb on a red or a white scale, which you can easily get hold of, you'll be able to identify that hair much more visually easier when you are using a colour contrast comb. With a motion scissor-over-comb, you've got to lock the scissor against the comb and control it together. You do not want to be going across, because as your comb is moving and you're going back and forth, the length will be variable and therefore incorrect and not so precise. The thumb will do most of the work for you. You need to collect and then control it in a way that's even. Try to keep the blades nice and balanced to ensure that you get a nice even consistency of a haircut. You are able to just go off into different directions because you'll see that the hair will grow in different directions, and there will be times that you will need to ensure that you complement that by moving your comb slightly off into different directions. You're going to be the judge of that visually using those tools. Connect by using a vertical section, fingers, to make sure that we've got that control. You can also double check some of the haircut. It's a finger length kind of haircut. Thin scissor technique, we can just blend that in slightly. So the same principle applies with the movement aspect. So together as a tool, keeping it moving, and you'll find that you can start to slowly pick out those key areas of that element that needs to be blended. That's the area we're working on. We do not want to start scissor over combing past that area, for instance here, because we've left it behind. We need to figure out where it is, figure out where we're going to start to apply the scissors to the comb, and ensure that it's the bit that we are getting that we are working on. So you do not want to go in. I want to blend that area in. Now would be a good time to make connection. Now I've gone past it. The hair is actually underneath the comb. So be very mindful to where you're operating and where you need to start. That's my area. I'm coming in, and about now, make connection. I'm going to maintain an outward projection of the comb. I do not want to come in and over, otherwise I'm going to take far too much hair off. So it's very important to ensure that you maintain that outward projection of your comb. It comes out almost with a curvature effect. As the hair leaves the head, so must the comb, to ensure you keep that very nice fluidity and connection. Important. Do not stray from the fact that the head will curve, and as the head curves in, so you must curve out. Coming in on a connection together now. Ultimately, option number 2, come in from a side sweep. It's going to be one of those things you will work out which techniques are more suited for you or more suited for different types of blending, different types of haircuts. Always massively important to start checking out the balance, making sure you've got a nice even approach. You may find at times if you've got growth patterns or stronger curvatures around this kind of area, or the hair different directions, you may want to go into it and just slightly do some slight point cutting if you feel the need to help blend and texturize and just check. So you can easily come in with a scissor over comb point cutting technique. Okay, so to do this whole haircut from the back to the sides to the top, it's really important to remember we have a guide area that we've created from our scissor over comb in about this area. This will serve as a connection point when we get to the top and the sides on the natural curvature of the head. So we're going to come through top aspect, check that we don't need to connect any of this crown area. On this particular occasion we do not, but you could just check that weight by pulling up over the curve of the crown and just making sure that you've got no excess. So you again can come in at a 90, hopefully if I just swing it around you'll see that. So you can come in at a 90 square haircut, or more of a rounded haircut, which would be pivoting off the crown. Now you can see with this particular haircut, it's really important to leave this weight. The biggest problem we could have now, if I duck over here as you go over this side slightly, so if we go in now and take that out, we're going to take that out and it's going to leave a dip in. Watch what happens when I remove that weight. You come back to the side here a second, right? Watch what happens if I take this weight out. I could come in and go right around that off there. Watch what happens, that pulls in like that. So this will become shorter. That then becomes shorter than that. You have got a disconnection. Biggest mistake I could do right now is to round these areas on the crown. Take that weight out. It would then remove that bulk that I so desperately need to have to connect the top and the back together. We're going to point cut into that area to create the texture and the separation we want. We're then going to come over the curve of the head and we're going to just take out a little bit of that weight on the curve. But I do want to keep that weight in there, so it's really important that you don't go down too low. So across, what I mean by going down too low, I could take all of this out. I want to keep it on the curvature of the head. So I want to keep that, let that drop. There's our connection point. Remove a little bit of weight through that area there. So we're going to work all the way to the front area, just removing some of this weight through this particular. So the shortest point is our connection area. That is the bit we have as our connection. We're going to take a little bit of that out. We're then going to move through to the top, texturizing some of this top area with a point cutting technique. Move across, maintain the same discipline on the curve. Notice that this will be my connection point on the side area and reduce that weight through that area here. Pull up, keep a discipline, look in the mirror if you need to make sure your fingers are at the same level. You cannot have your fingers here and then here because you will not have the connection and the balance required to achieve the haircut. So once you've got it, you know you do need to stay disciplined with it. So that whole angle needs to be correct. You need to have it the same. So if you haven't got it the same, this is what's going to be the problem. There and there, perfect. There and drop it, not good. So you just have to be really aware of that's going to be crucial to this haircut. So then we're just going to keep pivoting through to the front of the haircut, ensuring that we've got a blend. We're going to keep some of that fringe slightly longer, so we are going to over direct it slightly, which means we're going to maintain maximum length through the front. And we're going to just over direct that even more. So the whole fringe is going to be collected, pulled back by at least 2 inches to maintain the length in the front, because we want to create a really nice sharp finish to the fringe. Pull up, we're going to keep this more square so we don't cut off the corners of the fringe. Could go in again and just take that corner out, in which case this fringe would dip in here. We don't want that to happen. So we're going to maintain a good discipline through the front with a nice square connection into that fringe area to make sure that we have got as much weight as we need in these areas. Would massively depend on, obviously, with the customer's got receding kind of hairlines, to how you may control that, but I think that's something you would work out depending on what your customer's hair density is like. So we're going to have that fringe being quite blunt, which is that traditional French crop kind of feel to it. So we'll do that all once we've dried it. The other little technique I want to introduce to you when you're going through the top section is often known as castle cutting. So you take a section like so, and you can cut into, leave, cut into, leave, cut into, leave and cut into. So you can create a castle turret type top effect. It gives it that very much textured feel. It gives it that separation which is required when you've got a detailed haircut. So you've got the point cutting as a standard, just to give texture and to remove the length, which is a really nice haircut finish that you can use. You've got the castle cut, which will give it almost like a little bit more of a separated look. Very important to keep your fingers well below the length of the haircut to give you room that you do not cut your fingers, and you can create that separated turret castle choppy effect, which is a really nice technique to have. Always well worth saying to your customer, close your eyes at this stage, simply because you are going to have excess hair falling onto the face. You can see I'm using my rest hand to actually help guide that through to make sure it's nice and straight. You can also see that I'm doing it freehand with no tension. Change direction if the need be. Hold the customer's head if required, just to support, to make sure they don't have any sudden movements. You don't want to be doing anything radical whilst you're working on a nice blunt fringe. So if you wanted to come in and just soften some of that weight, you could come in and do what we call some deep point cutting. So just cutting into it, taking out the bluntness, taking out the weight. You could come in and do a little bit of chopping. So you could come in and literally separate some of that randomly if you require. You also got the opportunity to do some channel cutting, again supporting the customer's head so there's no sudden movements with the customer, and come in and literally just channel cut into the fringe, softening and debulking if required. You can successfully ensure that you've got a really nice blend and connect, is to do a forward sweep with your comb. So forward sweep past the hairline. The comb has to go past the hairline. So past, and make sure then you use your clippers to remove the excess. The edge of your clippers, following the natural contours of the ear and the hairline. On a customer this would be far easier. You could bend the ear back. These areas can sometimes prove to be a bit of a problem, so again we're going to come in with a slight forward sweep past the hairline, but graduate that comb out, so you're going to push it out further on the top part of the head. That's going to make sure that you get a nice connection. Bit of freehand work if required. What you don't want to do though is push your comb in like straight and take all that weight out. That's your blended area, so be very mindful of that. Position the comb correctly to ensure that we've got that graduated feel, slightly longer into slightly shorter. Push past, connect, and we're good. Always check your clippers first on yourself. Apply in the direction you wish it to be centered as far as the hairline is concerned. Now we're going to produce a nice square edged hairline. Just tilting it in at a 45-degree angle just to cross check, remove any excess. But it's important to hold the comb in the correct position. Bit of freehand work. Powder is always a really good texturizing product, which would give you that little bit of separation, a little bit more of a matte finish, and a little bit more of a thicker, denser feel to the haircut. Certainly good for people with fine hair, just to make sure that you can give it that little bit more of a fuller effect. Really important to apply it into the root areas. It will then work itself into the mid-length and ends to create that full choppy look. Now the go-to product, any form of soft wax. You could add a little bit again, small amount. Rub it in your hands really well. Break the product up because it's very concentrated, and then you could add that through in a way that just gives you a little bit more volume, texture, separation if required. You could add a lot more texture to this sort of haircut if you wanted to. So again, working it in root first, then you can work it into the mid-length and ends. We're starting to now look at this as being a product placement. So you're looking at the haircut, viewing the haircut, adding the product as and where you feel complements the overall effect, and then just using your fingers to pinch and pull if required, just to finish off, get that texture. I can't stress how important it is to spend time on finishing a haircut. We've always said that you could produce a quality haircut, but if you rush the finished look, the styling never really complements exactly what you've done. So really important to make sure you spend a bit of time getting that final look correct. Making sure your customers are fully aware of your product application, getting the best results, even let them try it if need be. But it's all about making sure they're using the best products to complement the overall look, which would then make your haircut stand out that much better. A little bit of lift and pull on the crown area. Check for the balance and the consistency throughout. So you're going to lift and pull, lift and pull, lift and pull. Now we call this product placement completed. Our interpretation of a classic scissor cut known as a French crop.